Hi everyone, I'm Rosemary Miller here with Nadia Edwards-Dashti, a Forbes Contributor, here to tell us about jobs in Web3. Thank you so much for joining me today, Nadia.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Absolutely. So Nadia, does pursuing a job in Web3 still make sense?
Yeah, well, you know what? What a great question. Does it make sense? I think it really does because it's here. A lot of people think it's coming, but it's here to stay, and there's a wealth of opportunity within it. There's also a wealth of risk. There's also a wealth of unknown. I think anybody wanting to get into this space, they will put themselves into such a good stead for their career because the experience that they will have, the experiences that they will gain, will be things that will put them in such good stead for the rest of their lives.
So could you give me an example of what a job in Web3 looks like today versus what it may look like in, 2030?
Well, I mean, that is, again, a very, very good question. But I think what a job looks like in Web3 right now, it could be many, many different things. And that's the beauty of this industry, because often these Web3 companies, they kind of live and breathe their own ecosystem. So you could have a legal expert within the world of Web3. And that individual right now will be having a whole lot of fun because there's so many regulations and so many conversations around what will be in place and what will change over the years, that there'll be so many challenges that individual will face. But I think the main thing that people think about when they talk about jobs within Web3 is they talk about Web3 development, they talk about blockchain development, they talk about architecture, they talk about the coding and how that code is going to be progressed within the space and how that code is going to become more accessible. So there's so many different things that we can look at when we look at the technology side of it. There's also so many other avenues that people can get involved in Web3. And that isn't just the legal one as the example I shared. There's product, there's marketing, there's the ability to talk about usability within Web3, which, let's be honest, is the crux of what Web3 really is today, how people can interact with it, access it, use it. So this whole usability piece, user experience, user design, is something that I think will really 10x over the next few years.
Well, Nadia, could you tell me, what are some majors that college students should consider if they're interested in pursuing a career in Web3?
So I'm probably not going to say to go down the majors route. I think that the world is changing far too quickly for that within Web3. People are actually looking for shorter courses and certifications. So there's a number of certifications that you can find online. The important thing is to make sure that you're going to the ones that are credible. So blockchain.com, they have a number of things there. But the point that I want to make on this is that actually deciding to forge a career within Web3 is about understanding that change will become your life. Change and being agile, being able to pivot, being able to handle the unknown. So I call it being confident in vulnerability, that whole ability to be able to live outside of your comfort zone. Because Web3 is changing, because it's changing the way that we interact with the internet, the way we interact with data, the way we interact with content, and in many forms, the way we interact with one another, this is going to open up so many opportunities for how we deal with technology, how we deal with the communication of that, how we make sure that people who have never, ever had access before now have access. They have access fairly and safely. There are so many things to consider with this, and any major I could talk about right now, in 3 years' time, what we will be able to do with regards to Web3 will be in a totally different world.
Well, I want to talk about change because I think change was a major issue, a major reason why a lot of people in Web3, because the metaverse is a component of Web3, they experienced mass layoffs, and that kind of change isn't good for one's psyche. As soon as the next new shiny thing comes along. So what is someone to do in that situation?
Of course, and it's never good for anyone's psyche when there's been tech layoffs. However, I do think within the technology space and within Web3 now, people are much more open to gaining a portfolio of experiences. So if we go back over the past 10 years of career building, we've always been obsessed with the history of our skill sets, with the history of our experience. Whereas Web3 is about the now, what we can gain in that experience right now, how we react to different situations. It's almost about the depth of how you get into a particular situation, rather than I did this for 10 years, or I have that skill set for 12 years, or whatever it may be. So actually, even in the negativity of layoffs, and I can never underestimate the negativity around somebody losing their job. But in this particular space, it is about gaining that experience and being able to use that in a different environment and a different part of Web3. And it's something that in my 20 years worth of career within recruitment, I have never seen anything the way I've seen it this year, with these layoffs, with people with Web3 skills who have gone on to build their own portfolio online and to document their experience of what's happened within their exposure to Web3, their situation when they were laid off, the work that they did whilst they were at home and laid off, and how that's actually then escalated their opportunities afterwards. And that's something truly unique that we just never ever saw 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 5 years ago.
And right, and at the rate that everything is advancing, how frequently do you think one should be upskilling?
Oh, again, I love this question. Upskilling in Web3 is a matter of course. It's day in, day out. Everything is changing. And I think that's why it's a certain personality type that will really love Web3, someone who is hungry for that learning and that continual learning. And that's why I call it confident vulnerability. That ability to be able to look around and say, I don't know all the answers. I need to be constantly learning, because that isn't just learning a particular technology code skill set so that you can be the architect of the next blockchain, but it's also learning somebody's perspective and how they have felt as a user of a particular system, how they are interacting with somebody across the world, and what that interaction has felt like and how successful that interaction has been. So realistically, speed of learning and that desire to learn, it's only going to get faster and faster, but with the parameters of that human nature and human empathy.
Well, let's switch gears a little bit. Let's talk about the money. Around how much can someone make in a job in Web3?
Well, the average salary of a developer in Web3 is $140,000 as an entry, which is incredible. But also, it does showcase that when we have seen the large scale layoffs, it's quite evident how quickly a company can regain any assets lost with regards to that money. But I think that is actually something that we will see grow and grow and grow in terms of that numeration that people will be gaining. On top of that, I think that there'll be a huge increase, and we've already started to see it within ownership and equity within different businesses that are growing within Web3. And there's been a huge growth of people actually taking time out of their current job to do pro bono work, to do side hustles and side projects within Web3 that's ended up escalating their monetary return anyway. So it's, again, really exciting space.
So let's say, okay, I know I want to pursue a job in tech, but I'm not exactly sure what field I want to go to. Would you say Web3, or would you maybe say fintech is safer? What would you say?
I think it really depends on your personality. If you're somebody who is super interested in learning, and you have that agile mindset where you are happy to change lane, you're happy to look at the status quo and say, I want to challenge this. I think we can do this system or this process better. If that is something that you are on the verge obsessed by, then Web3 is totally for you, like totally. I don't think that there's any industry out there in the world right now that you can say is the most secure place to be. But I think as individuals, anyone who is committed to that learning, anyone who will say to themselves, I'm here to learn, to get better, to build my portfolio of experiences and skills, and treat that as an asset, and then within this world, show people that journey. Like, one thing I say about, if you want to get into Web3, be Web3. You be what you want to be within this, and you go to those meetups, you get those certifications, you engage with the thought leaders, you give your opinion to those thought leaders, you become loud within this space. be the role that you want to be. And so when it comes to risk and which is the best market to go into, if you're obsessed with that learning and you want to be innovative, creative, and drive change and use your skill sets to do that, Web3 is a great place for it.
Thank you so much for joining me today, Nadia.
Thank you.